Welcome to Downtime with Depreciator, a metal band from Berkeley Township, New Jersey that formed around 2014 and plays together today. Okay, I have to be honest, when I heard and saw similar live footage, it made me pretty intimidated. As a guy who has always listened to classic rock, this was a completely different element that I was not prepared for. People swinging their arms around wildly, a voice that is loud, deep, and screaming at you. Typically, I would turn around and run out of the room. But after breaking down some of the key elements of metal culture, I found the results to be fascinating. So what is death metal, first of all? The definition is stated to be an extreme subgenre of heavy metal music. It typically employs heavily distorted and low-tuned guitars played with techniques such as palm muting and tremolo picking, deep growling vocals, aggressive, powerful drumming featuring double kick and blast beat techniques, minor keys or atonality, abrupt tempo, key and time signature changes, and chromatic chord progressions. Yeah, that sounds about right from what we just saw. And when they're swinging their arms around wildly, that's called moshing, which is dancing to music in a violent manner involving jumping up and down and deliberately colliding with other dancers. Also, just being out in what's called the pit and swinging your arms, that is also part of moshing. It is a heavy focus of something that will occur at metal shows. It is very regular, very common. To further expand on what moshing is, it is a style of dance in which people push and slam into others. It will typically occur in the center of the crowd and closer towards the stage in an area known as the pit. The style originated in the hardcore punk scenes of California and Washington, D.C. around 1980. Later on, it branched out to other genres such as thrash metal and grunge, which were big in the 80s and 90s. And it was how it infiltrated into the mainstream. Now it can be applied to many genres of music, not just metal alone. You'll see this at rap shows and EDM concerts. Variations of moshing exist, including pogoing, circle pits, and a wall of death. Yeah, it's called a wall of death, which originally started to become a thing in the 80s when people wanted to break into the pit. And it would do this by forming a line and literally rush the pit and becoming part of it. Now it's a call out at different shows with two separate lines on opposite sides rushing into each other aggressively. Now, I planned on introducing the different members of the band that I interviewed later on, but I think Depreciator's guitarist Chris hit the nail on the head when it came to the idea of moshing. This is what he said.
Man, if you even speak out against the scene, everyone's gonna call you a bitch. Like, it's just, you literally have to be okay with murder to not be a bitch.
So let's back up a bit. When did metal form? Death metal, to say. Who were the progenitors of the genre? Well, one of the earliest signs of emergence for death metal was through the band Venom, an English heavy metal band from Newcastle whose album Welcome to Hell contained elements of thrash metal, death metal, and black metal, and it was released in 1981. Another highly influential band is Slayer, a group formed in 1981 that played thrash metal. But due to how much more violent their acts had been compared to their counterparts such as Metallica or Megadeth, whose lyrical content paled in comparison, Slayer often combined lyrics with high-tempoed songs about death, violence, war, and Satanism. Yes, there are satanic roots in Slayer, which played well into creating a cult following for the band itself. So now that we have some of the terminology, let's explore some of the subgenres. These subgenres include, but are not limited to, Black and Death Doom, Black and Death Metal, Melodic Black Death, War Metal, Brutal Death Metal, Death Doom, Death and Roll, Deathcore, Death Grind, Gore Grind, and Porno Grind, which I do not recommend looking up, by the way. There's also Death Thrash, Industrial Death Metal, Melodic Death Metal, Slam Death Metal, Symphonic Death Metal, and Technical Death Metal. There is a lot of subgenres with death metal in the name. Okay, so why is it called death metal in the first place? One of the most popular suggestions is in reference to a band called Possessed 1984 demo titled Death Metal, which was also featured on their 1985 album Seven Churches. Possessed vocalist and bassist Jeff Becerra said he created a name from his English class assignment in 1983. Another theory was a magazine called Death Metal, which was started by Thomas Fisher and Martin Ein of Hellhammer and Celtic Frost. However, The name was later given to the compilation called Death Metal, which was released by Noise Records in 1984. There are many more theories and ideas as to the origin, but the ones listed prior are the most popular to date. So now that we have a history behind death metal and we know what we're walking into, we can focus on what goes into forming a band, writing a song, and getting into the scene. There are thousands of death metal bands in the current era over the period of almost 40 years since its roots had been founded. Like most popular genres, it can be difficult to gain traction. When speaking to Depreciator, I heard exactly how difficult it can be to get your feet wet. Networking is a huge part of getting into a venue. When asked, this is what Depreciator vocalist Cody Canning and guitarist Danny Dell had said. So, what's your favorite venue, though?
Voltage.
Voltage Lounge, easily.
Is it the craziest one?
Fire's the craziest one, but Voltage is home.
Voltage is amazing.
You said why is that? Because Dom Stone is the man, and, he, took us out of the realm of, oh, here's 40 tickets, you have to sell 25 or you can't play.
Yeah.
And, Dom was literally like, yo, you guys are all cool, you make cool music, bring one person that's never been to a metal show, and I don't care how many people come for you. Just bring one person. That's all I care. And, to give, a band, we didn't, blow up or, have any kind of serious following until after we started playing his shows. So to, give that chance or that opportunity to, a nobody band is, that meant the world. And, it all started at Voltage pretty much, so.
Dude, nobody cared. We were, struggling. We were, begging people to, put us on shows.
Kids would laugh at us when we play.
Yeah, kids used to laugh.
We got called, a shitty gent band, at our
For
first
some
show.
reason. Just because we had 8 strings and no bassist at the time, But, yeah, we played so many shows and people did not care, and we would beg. We would beg to get on shows. And then we played, we started playing in Philly. I think we did, 2 or 3 shows in Philly. And then all of a sudden everybody was like, dude, can you come play? Dude, we need you here. I was just asking you, a month ago, and you, completely blew me off, or you just told me to fuck off. And now all of a sudden we were, getting asked all the time to play shows for a while.
Relationships between the owners and managers of a venue always have the final say on who performs. It's a bit of a no-brainer when it comes to that, which is why it is absolutely essential that a band's representative maintain a good relationship with them. Typically, touring bands will work with booking agents whose primary job is to help maximize their exposure to the scene, culture, location, and atmosphere of the genre that a band belongs to. Now, an important attribute for almost any musician and artist is a sound distinction. It helps create a unique vibe and identifier within the music industry so people can recognize and gravitate towards your songs in the first place. With such a diverse amount of subgenres, there's going to be a lot of unique sound. And most bands don't necessarily identify by just one subgenre. Not only would it be limiting in their exposure, but it would also be limiting to their sound overall. Especially in a competitive industry, having distinction and the opportunity to create and experiment that unique sound is extremely important to possess.
So I got a question. What about the development? Because you guys have a unique sound. You guys don't, at least from that first release. The second release more so you sound like other bands, but you're not following trends.
Yeah.
The first release, I hadn't heard anything like it. I thought it was, very original.
Oh, thank you.
Where'd the development of that sound come from?
Well, we obviously, we're very greedy with guitar, so we love really high pitched shit and really low pitched shit. So, we definitely got extended range guitars and did a lot of chunky stuff. But, we love bands like Meshuggah and, Tony Danza, Tap Dance Extravaganza, bands like Villains or Youth Forever now. They changed their name. But, all these great bands, aside from Meshuggah, break up. So it's every great artist you look back on winds up splitting up. No, I said Meshuggah, with the exception of Meshuggah, yeah. No, believe me, I've seen them too, and they're choice. Don't they play on cruises and shit sometimes too? Yeah, I want to, dude. It'd be so sick to see Meshuggah on a cruise. Come on, that'd be so sick. But yeah, the development of the sound. I just loved very unnerving, stuff. I liked very anything that just sounded like you're just home alone and you just hear a noise, saying? I just love that cold.
The unknowing of the dark and
just the sound, feeling. Just because the idea of being fright, dying of fright is, I imagine that shit. And I love the scene in It too, where Homeboy is in the pipe and he comes out and his hair's like white because he just was like just scared. Like he's just that scared. Like that is just. I just love like scary wonky shit, and I love music that's aggressive and negative, and I like the combination. I love the coldness of some music and stuff, and
We always like fall back on like
Deathcore?
Yeah, like experimental deathcore or like sporadic deathcore, I guess. It's like hard though, cause like people will say like, oh, this band's like slam, but they're not. Or I don't know. Everyone has like a different opinion.
Yeah.
We just like don't like try to classify it.
What's slam?
It's like when like white angry dudes just like keep hitting the bell on the drums. That's literally slam. It's just like ignorant people that I mean I love it. I'm
like
ignorant, but like
it's like white people trying really hard to come up with like a gangster persona,
yeah.
but like trying to attribute it to metal for some reason. Like that's like whenever you watch anybody, like if you type in like a slam band and you like look up their stuff on the internet, there's usually guys with like grills and big chains and like it's like why? Like this is metal and all the songs are just about like killing hookers or something. It's like okay.
The music's kind of sick though.
Yeah, the music's so like over the top, unbelievable. You're like, who wrote this? And then you see the people and you're like, of course. Like, but it's like a weird inside joke that like everybody's kind of in on, and then some people take it way too seriously.
Like the people that like dress up like that, like they know it's like that's like not how they carry themselves, but like it's like just a joke now, I guess.
So, as stated previously, most bands don't identify as one subgenre within the scene. After coming together and getting that initial foot in the door, you might be surprised by how quickly a band will start getting booked, especially if you have a sound that an audience wants to hear. From then on, it's a formal process of deciding what's coming next. In Depreciator's case, they travel consistently to many different places, setting up shows week after week and dropping more music.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we definitely need to go out west because obviously we did the whole like almost the whole East Coast, which was fucking cool, So I mean, we didn't go north of Jersey, but we still like obviously it was like all the way down like Connecticut and fucking PA and Delaware and everywhere.
What's the farthest away show you guys have played?
Florida.
Florida.
Yeah, and we were there for 3 days. It was awesome. It was
Nice.
dope. Yeah, it was so cool, dude. When I drove like 8 hours, like because we had like a 13-hour drive, and I started driving at like 2:45 a.m. and just the sun coming up when we first got into Florida, stuck in traffic, sweating my balls off, just looking at all the palm trees. I was like, dude, this is like a whole nother world. Like it was crazy. I'd never been like anywhere.
As Mick Mars of Motley Crue once stated, if you have a shitty name, you have a shitty band. So when speaking to Cody and Danny about the names before Depreciator, they kindly explained what Depreciator actually means. And when Cody gave the definition, it all made sense. Especially after listening to the lyrics, they managed to incorporate their name into their music almost subliminally.
It, like, a lot of people relate it to just, like, financial stuff because it means, like...
I figured it's the opposite of appreciate.
Yeah.
Like self-deprivation.
So, like depreciation when it comes to, like... It usually is related to, like, financial things, and I used to get people who text me all the time and be like, dude, I saw in a Geico commercial, they said, like, your car depreciates, bro, haha. But it's supposed to mean, like you lose value over time, and that's, like, what a depreciator is something that takes the value away. So, like, depreciators technically means, like, something or someone that's, like, taking the value out of something or someone else.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a bit of a warning. Some heavy music is about to play, and we are going to examine the lyrics to help wrap together my previous statement of how the name Depreciator fits into the lyrical content. You have been warned. So, yeah, like I said, it's pretty hardcore stuff going on here, and it's one thing when you listen to the lyrics, it's another when you have the lyrics on a sheet in front of you. There's a lot of intense imagery in there, and for some people, it's probably slightly disturbing. I'm Just gonna get that out of the way because I know it isn't a common thing in mainstream pop culture to listen and interpret lyrics like this. However, I think the imagery is interesting and it has an excellent rhyme scheme, and you can see how it plays into the earlier reference of slam. You can also see how Depreciator plays into the lyrics. Now, with that in mind, in my closing statement on the band, I believe they are highly skilled musicians who are regular people that get together to have fun. There's a lot of stereotypes about death metal as a whole that simply don't seem validated. Most of the metal fans I have come into contact with have always been extremely nice. They just like to thrash themselves and others that shows in a controlled environment. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. Now, I've known these guys since high school. They've always been kind and courteous. Cody since the 2nd grade and Chris since kindergarten. I unfortunately was unable to get into contact with bassist Chaffee and percussionist Mikey Yager. But from everything I've gathered, both of them are creative and good-natured people. When I reached out to Cody, he almost immediately said they'd love to do this project with me. So to them, I want to say thank you for participating and showing us under the veil of death metal. And here's to you metal fans out there. Have a good one.
No one is gone.